Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What? Today we've got Hugo Campbell on, and he's the co-founder at Feast It. Hi, Hugo.
Hi, yeah, how you doing?
Really good, mate. Really good. Excited to have a bit of a chat with you. I think you've had quite an interesting career. So, do you want to jump straight in and tell everyone a bit about what you do?
So firstly, yeah, thank you for having me on. So I'm one of the co-founders of Feast It. It's a booking platform for event suppliers. So if you were looking to, if your company was looking to have a corporate event and wanted to book a venue and some catering and maybe a photographer for that event, you would come onto our platform and book them through that. It's been described. It's fairly simple. We've been described as sort of Airbnb for events in the past, and it's a business that we've been running for just over 5 years now. On the other side of that, for suppliers as well, it's a platform that they can come to sort of grow their businesses through. And, our aim is to become somewhere that become more than just a booking platform for them. And, we have a real kind of community of suppliers. We have a number of benefits of being on the platform and a number of tools that kind of make it easier for them to just kind of run their businesses through Feast It as well. So yeah, that's Feast It in a bit of a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. I had a little look earlier and a little play around with it. I think it's a great idea. Definitely something that I can see being a lot of use to a lot of different types of businesses. But events, how did you sort of get into that?
So it's an interesting one. It's actually more my co-founder. There are kind of two sides to it. My co-founder, who I started the business with, we've known each other forever, but we were living together at the time, and he was working for a company called Fest Ticket, which is a booking. It's actually sadly just gone under, but they did a great job raising a quite a large amount of money for their
Mm.
platform, and it was a booking platform for festival tickets, basically, so you could discover festivals and book your tickets through it. And he had a background in the events industry before that as well, and his whole life had sort of been in the events industry. And we were talking about it a lot at the time. I was a journalist at the time, so not directly involved in events, although you go to a lot and that kind of thing, and you can see that the quality of corporate events maybe isn't that good. And went through the process as well of trying to organize the catering for my mum's 50th as well, which at that time was trying to get a sort of organized. Well, we were trying to organize a food truck to get to a rural Oxfordshire, and it turned out to be this incredibly difficult process
Mm.
involving searching for a supplier, trying to guarantee that there'd be a very good quality, how working out how to pay them, and everything that comes with that was quite complicated. And so we talked about it a lot between us and settled on this idea of trying to start the booking platform for event suppliers, which perhaps surprisingly didn't previously exist.
Very cool. I mean, I think we've all faced that problem, and definitely that resonated. We're talking about your mum's 50th. It was actually my mum's 60th last year, and we had the same problem trying to book, good caterers, knowing if you could trust them. Trying to get everything sorted was an absolute mission. So I wish I'd known about your company beforehand. That would have helped out a lot.
Yeah, it's typically something that's seen as being, super stressful, and can lead to questionable quality, which is why you'll probably know it as well as anyone does. And I'm mainly talking about catering here, but it applies to other aspects of events too. But if you're looking at catering, we all know those events where you go to the weddings where you get the conservative sort of chicken and something option that's perfect, but it's all perfectly nice, and but
Yeah.
just not that exciting, and maybe doesn't necessarily represent the person whose event it is. And what we're trying to do at Feast It is say that you can you can book whoever you want through us, and they're guaranteed to be of a really, really good quality as well.
Mm. So that's Feast It, but let's go back a bit. Now, were you always going to go down a certain route at sort of school and university? Did you go to university? And if so, what did you study?
Yeah, I did. I mean, as I touched on before, I was a journalist prior to Feast It. So I worked at the Independent for a couple of years, and I studied English at uni. before then at Warwick, actually. And so I wouldn't say that the sort of, I guess, entrepreneurial path wasn't something that I was directly looking at. And I thought journalism was going to sort of be my career on from there. But the opportunity came up to kind of go and start a list, and we thought we had a pretty decent idea, and our kind of, I guess, our philosophy at the time was we would take a few months to try and start building it. We had that opportunity to go and do that, and if things went tits up after 3 or 4 months, it was clear that we weren't getting anything off the ground and weren't making any progress, then we'd go back to our old careers with probably less than harm done, because we would have learned a lot. And thankfully we started getting some traction, which enabled us to keep the business going and go on from there.
Interesting. So what were your thoughts on university? Did you enjoy the experience, and do you find your degree useful?
Yeah, I thought it was a very good experience. I loved my degree. I did English, which was always what I'd wanted to do. And I find, and I think this is true of most people who've done English degrees, it's a very good general degree for shaping you as a person and for learning a lot about the world. It doesn't necessarily put you on a set track towards a certain profession, although the amount of people who go on to do like law conversion courses, maybe it does actually. But I thought it was a very valuable experience. I really enjoyed the university experience in general as well. Have I'd say the majority of my a lot of my close friends in life are all people who I met at university. So I found the course was useful. It certainly helped me get my first job, the experience was one that definitely kind of helped, I guess, shape me into the person that I am today, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about university a lot on the podcast at the moment, especially, and it's always a difficult one. We have quite a few people that say, yes, I really valued my university time at university, but maybe I could have learned what I learned in my degree outside of it, maybe apprenticeship route. Is that kind of an available option in things like journalism, or do you need a degree to go into journalism, do you think?
You don't need a degree to go into anything. Well, that's not quite true, obviously, but it just helps really know that. I think it's a really tough one, because I also really don't think that universities for everyone at all, and that there are very, very valid routes that I think it's sort of half and half whether you should go or not. But for me, it's, if you go into university thinking about it as purely a path to your job, then you're probably thinking about it wrong. You think it should be seen as a way of shaping you as a person and helping you kind of it's the place where you go to make friends for life. It's the place where you go to round out your personality. And I think if you're going into it thinking if I'm just doing this because I want to help with my qualifications in life, then you won't make the most of it. And also conversely, you'll probably end up not doing that because you're too focused on that. It's a really hard line to tread, and I know it's different for everyone. And if you have a dream of what you want to go into, and you don't necessarily need university to do that, the idea of spending $9,000 or even more going forward a year on doing it is probably something that's not particularly palatable. So I completely understand that. But for me, I think it was the right decision. Well, I was also the last year who were paying $3,000, but anyway, that's.
No, I completely agree. I think you touched on some points that certainly, I think for university compared to maybe just schooling prior to that, it's a lot more about being able to really specialize, really understand what your strengths are, and being able to apply that, which you can then look at to build on and move that forward into a career. Actually, I think maybe touched on this. What do you think maybe were some of your things that university was able to teach you outside of maybe education that you think might be valuable?
It's a really hard one. I think in terms of things like it's a hard one to exactly define, because it's things, when I say growing as a person, I mean learning how to properly socialize, learning in life what I really enjoyed, having the time, maybe this is just because it's an English degree and there aren't as many contact hours, but having the time to kind of think about what you actually want to go on in life and not rushing into it. My personal view is that 18 is probably too young to come out with a fully fledged idea of what you want to go and do in life. I only speaking from a personal experience here. I didn't know. I had ideas of what I wanted to do, but I didn't know for sure, and it would have been very easy to have made a mistake in life. And for what it's worth, and it's only a personal thing, a lot of the people who I know who maybe didn't decide to go to university have ended up changing jobs or kind of reversing their earlier career decisions because they perhaps maybe didn't have that time to kind of go and think about it, didn't have that time to kind of define what they wanted to become before they went and did it. Essentially, I think those kind of formative years, those kind of 18 to 21 years, are very important ones in people's lives, where you kind of learn a lot about yourself, and the person you are at 21, 22 is very different from the person you are at 18.
Very, very true. I've exactly had that experience. I've had a couple of careers after leaving school at 18. So yeah, that definitely resonates with me. It's a great point.
Yeah, I do want to be clear about the fact that that's simply my experience. And I also know of people who have it's 100%. I've also known people who went to university who I don't think should have done. And I know people, my sister, for example, she decided that she wasn't going to go to university and went and worked straight away in TV production, which is what she knew that she wanted to do. And I think that for her was actually a really, really good decision, and that was an industry where that actually worked well for, because it meant that she was able to kind of build up a good amount of experience right at the start, and she's still within that industry. And so yeah, it's a complete profession person issue. But I definitely think that more people go to uni than probably should.
Yes, I think we're in agreement on that. Let's talk about your career in journalism. So how was that? How did you find it? Did you enjoy
it? Yeah, I did. It was very interesting. It was I worked at the Independent, which was when I joined newspaper, and by the end was just a digital only newspaper, but or digital only website and an iPad app as well. But it was it was great. It was went in there very young, didn't know exactly what to expect from it. Ended up having to my first role there was just writing online articles about just about anything. Be it you'd be writing about the war in Iraq, and then you're writing about Formula One 10 minutes later, and then a kind of gossip story 10 minutes after that. So it could be absolutely anything, and you were writing a lot every day. But it was really entertaining, very, very fast paced. The days would kind of go like that when you're just sort of spending all day churning out articles. But it was definitely really enjoyable, and worked with some really great people. And there was some good opportunities there at the company. They were very good at, if you had an idea that you wanted to put forward, they would, most likely say, yes, you're more than welcome to go and kind of make that happen. So, if it was a great place, if you were kind of happy to go and take initiative. And for example, within the first few weeks there, no, not the first few weeks, within the first few months there, I kind of said, can I get a bit of experience working on the opinion desk every now and again? And that was absolutely fine. And after a few months, I was allowed to go and kind of edit the opinion page on weekends, and that was a great experience as well.
So do you think if sort of the idea for Feast It hadn't come about, you'd still be in journalism?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really see why not. It's a really enjoyable industry if you can. It's very different in the early stages. It depends what you want to do, because online journalism it's very fast paced. I mean, the only thing I can compare it to, not having ever had a finance job, but from what I've spoken to, with friends and etc., seen in films, that kind of thing, it's that kind of fast paced, go all the time kind of thing. And, it's about getting articles out quicker. It's about getting the article written quicker than the BBC does. And it's like fun stuff, really, really exhilarating. And, you can get a bit knackered by the end of the day, but it's definitely a lot of fun. And I think I would probably still be, I don't know in which shape or form, whether it would still be in the writing side or whether it would be on the more kind of business side of it. But I think, I would most likely still be within the industry for sure.
So how did you find the transition from working at the independent to then starting your own business and becoming an entrepreneur? How did you find that?
I mean, it was useful to be able to, write decent copy. Not that useful, but basically not particularly useful. There was, I feel that we were relatively young. I mean, we were 24 when we started the business.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was, there's, at the time that the youth probably helps in some ways because, you have a bit more of a sort of impetuousness and you think that, you can go out and do anything, which, to a certain extent is true. But, we look back now and think of some of the, it's not so much mistakes that we made. It's more how much quicker we could have done things and more effectively we could have done things in the earlier days if we'd had, a few more years of experience each, in a startup environment, or, let's say that we had founded a business before. There are so many things that we would have probably done in a different way that we did the first time around. And, not that we did them in the wrong way, we did them in what seemed like the right way for us at the time. But, ultimately, we could do things much quicker now, I think.
So, I mean, you called it a startup. I think Feast is around 6 years old now. Is that right? Just coming up to 6 years old?
Yeah, that is correct. Although you might want to minus 18 months from that because of COVID, where the events industry was pretty much banned. But, we were still, building out our product during that. We were certainly not idle, but the events industry was, in a shutdown for all of lockdown.
And we advocate massively on the podcast for actually getting and working at startups because I think it's such a great environment for young people to learn so many different skills. And I think it really sort of, not to make it all a competition, but it does put you ahead of competition of people your own age because I think you learn so many different bits and bobs to business. And how big's the team now at Feast It?
The team is currently 60. Wow. But yeah, I agree that it's for sure a great place to come and learn. I think particularly in the very early stages of it, where everyone was pretty much doing everything and could fill in for everyone on everything, and we kind of all learning from each other. I think that the very early stages in particular are really great places. When you're young to come and learn how lots of different things work. I think it's definitely a much more I guess sort of I'd like to think about us at least very kind of meritocratic. There are no kind of barriers in place for people to progress if they're doing a great job and they're kind of putting themselves forward. And I think we really try and recognize people who are clearly taking the initiative and pushing interesting ideas. And I think those are the benefits of working in a startup, is that you're learning a lot, but also you're able to. So I touched on it with the independent earlier, where you're also able to do that, but you're able to take the initiative and go and do interesting things if that's what you want to do, and you can kind of lead initiatives, and that's a big part of it. So I'd say for anyone who's if that's a motivating factor, then startups is a great place to work. And also, of course, if you want to go on and start your own company at some point, then there's no better place to kind of work when you're young. And despite the fact that I didn't, I wish I had done and have got had a bit more startup experience before we kicked Feast It off.
Obviously, you've grown quite a lot in the time Feast It, and Feast It has grown as well. Looking back now, what would be some of the biggest moments where you've gone, oh God, we're doing this? Like, what are some of the most standout events for you?
Yeah, well, we've done so as well as the booking platform. We had one very fun moment right at the beginning where one of the first people who booked was we sort of turned on AdWords, and got within I think a couple of days got sort of basically a 20 grand booking from Samsung,
Oh wow.
which was obviously great, but it just complete luck. But no, that was great. But yeah, we've done a few. We also do some public events, and we've helped put in the suppliers, the food and bars at events like London Pride, which has been fantastic, and then a number of sort of music festivals over the summer as well. And it's always great to go along to them and see everything in action, and kind of happening, and knowing that we're the people who've kind of put in those suppliers is always good to see.
That's very cool. And then been the biggest personal sort of positive to becoming an entrepreneur and starting the company, would you say?
Probably it's a hard one to say exactly, because I mean the answer is working with having the ability to choose who you work with, I'd say. And having the it's great to to have that, to have such a great team. And I guess while there were great parts about both of our last jobs, co-founder and I, there were also parts of it that were not necessarily particularly fun, particularly in the sort of management side of things. And it was we kind of wanted to work somewhere where we could set the tone, and that's great. And I think that, and I as I say, it's easy for me to say this as one of the founders, but ask our employees. But I like to think that we've got a very friendly place to work, that really encourages people's creativity, and encourages people to come up with their own ideas. Aside from that, it's quite nice to not have anyone question if you disappear for an hour to I don't know. No one really questions it. It's quite nice.
Yes, very.
What would be some of the biggest challenges you've had along the way, though?
Lots and lots. I mean, the answer to that is COVID, for sure. But also, so I mean, yeah, it's definitely COVID, and addressing that as an events company where we saw our we were in a really good position just before COVID. We were kind of growing quite nicely. We thought we were kind of gearing up to do a round of funding. I think that we were looking to kick off a few, in the, I want to say sort of at that summer, kind of April, May sort of time. Obviously, that got put on hold because the world got put on hold, and we had to kind of scramble around that to try and save the company at that point. And we were lucky in that we had some very supportive investors who we presented a plan to and said, look, we want to get through to the end of this, and they supported that, and that put us in a good position because it enabled us to go and build out our product. But I'm trying to think, aside from that, it's what are the things that are quite hard? It's definitely, as the team grows, making sure that that everyone's up to date with comms. It's I'd say that's maybe we had one. Well, there's making sure everyone's up to date with comms is something that is much harder than you think it would be. Making sure that everyone's on the same page all the time and kind of has the same message, where you kind of, when you're a team of 13 of you, or 15 all working in kind of one room, everyone's on the same page all the time. But then you grow to 60, and suddenly, and a fair few of the team are remote, suddenly you just have to step up your communications to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And I'd say that's a challenging thing. And just making sure you get your there's nothing more important than hiring the right people as well. So just
leads really nicely onto our question about when we encourage people to work at startups. I think there's, or young companies, whatever you want to call it. I think when you look to hire, is there anything particularly you look for, maybe personality trait wise or skill set wise, or what are you looking for when you want to hire someone into your business?
Yeah, I think it's a really hard one to define, because there's not a set personality. We're not looking for, we don't have a kind of any biases of personality of people that we want to bring on board. You want people that you think can be good self-starters. And the reason for that is, you kind of always have that we were relatively inexperienced when we started the business. The truth is we still are not that far into our careers overall, and we're looking for people who can come in and know more than us and can are able to kind of go on and make changes and actually take control of departments and do things in a much better way than we could ever do, which is sounds like a very basic thing. Of course we want that, but it's that kind of self-starter, going out and getting stuff done yourself is something that we try and look for in anyone that we hire, for sure. I'd say that's probably the most important thing.
And then following on from that, we talk about the use of sort of CVs versus maybe a LinkedIn profile and a bit of personal branding. What's your opinion on that? It's great. I'm sure you have CVs. Most companies ask for CVs, but that little bit extra of maybe having an active LinkedIn profile, some form of personal branding, or somewhere you can show your skill set off to the job you're applying. What's your thoughts on that?
It's an interesting one, because I think that I personally, my personal view is that no matter what someone's saying, or no matter what someone's LinkedIn is, no matter what their CV says, none of it gives you more than a 5% insight into the personality. And I think, even if people are posting on LinkedIn. So for me, my personal view is that I try not to judge people, aside from, the basics of their CV, on anything about it until you've spoken to them. So we will always make sure we do a lot of phone screenings and for every single role. And my view is that you can learn more from a 20-minute conversation with someone, or even a 10-15-minute conversation with someone, than you can by miles from their CV or from a LinkedIn profile. But so we try and always make sure we do a good amount of phone screenings for any role that we have. For me, that's the most important thing. That's not to say that you shouldn't, that's just me. That I know that LinkedIn profiles and a LinkedIn voice do have an impact on other people, but for me, it's all about that kind of chatting with people.
Sure. And what does the future look like for Feast It?
Well, it's a good time to ask. Well, depends on the world outside and what the government do tomorrow, I'd say. But yeah, it's looking really exciting. We're looking to expand internationally in the not too distant future. We've got a long way to go in the UK, and it's a fantastic events market. We're really keen to look to the US as well. There's a very similar events market over there. It's a bigger one, of course, but it's kind of similar. And you've got the East Coast, the West Coast, are both massive areas for events, and we're desperate to go and launch out there, as well as growing out the number of services you can book through the platform. At the moment, you can book about 10 services for an event. We want to add unlimited, well, not unlimited, but everything you need for your event. So from the kind of glamorous side, from say musicians, down to the kind of less glamorous sort of Portaloo side, and as long as we're giving people the right options, it's adding everything that you need for an event. And
would you still go into this industry knowing everything you know now?
Yeah, for sure. It's you're learning a lot every single day, and that's what's exciting about it. There are probably days of the month that I probably wouldn't say yes to it, but yeah, no, it's I definitely would.
Well, Hugo, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time.
No, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it, and thank you. Thanks for taking the time to chat.
Well, thank you. Where can people find you, find Feast It, and everything that they're up to?
Yeah, so Feast It is just feast-it.com, feast-it.com, and then if you want to chat to me, feel free to add me. It's Hugo Campbell on LinkedIn, CAMPBELL.
Brilliant. Thanks, Hugo.